Okay, so you're planning on making a movie and now you want to write the coolest thing on the planet and you want to give it the dopest name you can possibly think of. You want to give it a name that people will remember and will shout out for the rest of eternity. You want a name that stands out and looks so brilliant that no one can resist to watch your movie. Hello everyone, James Martin here, and I'm going to give you a few suggestions on how you can make the sickest, coolest movie title you can possibly come up with. I'm going to let you in on a little secret here, but first, before I get into the video, please make sure to subscribe because I have lots of content to help filmmakers to achieve better movies. So as I said, there's a bit of a secret here in order to come up with movie titles, and the truth of the matter is it's actually a little bit easier than you might think. It's a little straightforward. So let's break this down a little bit. So the first thing I want to talk to you about are a title of a movie will come down to either the name of a character, the name of the concept, the name of the conflict, the name of the antagonist. So an example would be Jason Bourne or a lot of the DC and Marvel movies, because they're basically named after their main hero. You know, the character Iron Man, well, his movie is called, well, Iron Man. You have Captain America and his movies are called Captain America. The Tomb Raider and her movies are called, guess what? Tomb Raider. So it's a lot more straightforward when you just name a movie after your character, but the thing is, it has to make sure that the story does evolve around your character. As I said, it could follow along a concept or conflict such as Inception or Lord of the Rings. Even the name Phantom of the Opera can fit into this category. But the point is that we just took a character or a conflict or a concept from the story and that became its title. So it's a little more easier to do it this way. It's not as creative, but you know what? It gets the job done. The second thing you might want to think about are titles that make a point. So for instance, we have the Dark Knight trilogy. Now, the reason why this is called the Dark Knight, up until the Dark Knight trilogy, Batman movies weren't exactly seen as being serious movies or being well made. And when Christopher Nolan wanted to take over the trilogy and make the Dark Knight movies, he wanted to give it a title to distinguish it from the other Batman films, because he wanted to make a Batman film with real conflict and was to be made as serious as possible. So he renamed it as The Dark Knight. Often you might see examples of these titles in parodies, such as Vampire Sucks. So Vampire Sucks is a parody of the infamous Twilight movies. And it's called Vampire Sucks because, one, vampires suck blood, so those words make sense. But also, when it says Vampire Sucks, it's deliberately making fun of the original movies. And that's the whole point. These are actually making fun of the Twilight movies. Another example is Treasure Planet, which is actually a remake of the original Treasure Island. And what's interesting about this title is that it may be a bit of a subtle difference between Treasure Island versus Treasure Planet, but by saying Treasure Planet, it automatically tells us this is a sci-fi universe. And by saying Treasure Planet, it kind of hints that this is actually a remake of the existing title Treasure Island, especially if you're familiar with it. So it gives a lot more depth to that meaning. And the final example of this is a documentary called Super Size Me. The reason for this title is that in the United States, at McDonald's, you can order an extra size of your drink and fries and stuff like that called a super size. The whole point of this documentary is to talk about fast food and how it makes people obese and how there's a huge obesity problem in the United States. And so it says super size, referring to the size at a particular fast food chain, but by saying supersize me, it's suggesting that I'm much bigger and much bloated than what I should be. And that's the whole point. The whole documentary talks about how people are bloated from fast food, so it's called Supersize Me, which is a great documentary, by the way. All right, so those are titles that have a little bit more behind their meaning. So these are things you could think about where it's perfectly okay to come up with a title that really gets across what the whole point of the story is. And in my opinion, I think these are some of the more clever titles because it really gets you involved. It really introduces what these are about. The next thing to think about are clickable titles, especially for vlogs and short films where you want someone to stumble upon your movie and want to watch it. Think of a hook and use words that help give an easy idea of what the story involves. Now, as I said, a lot of this might be more associated with YouTube and we're talking about movies here, But if you're looking for views on the internet, or if you're looking for just simply something to catch other people's eyes, really think about what you can do with the words to really hook people in. So a great example that I love showing people when it comes to coming up with good titles is Mr. Beast videos, and also CDog VA I think comes up with really great titles. All of these get across what the whole point of the video is and why you should go and click on it, and I think these are very clever. By the way, so fun fact, if you watch anime, there are certain titles that feel more like descriptions. The reason because is most manga and light novel readers won't bother to read the story description on the back, so most of the titles themselves will give a glimpse into the story. So that's why we have I'm the villainess and I'm taming the final boss, science fell in love so I tried to prove it, I've been killing slimes for 300 years and now I've maxed out my level, my stepmom's daughter is my ex, the greatest demon lord is reborn as a typical nobody, and how not to summon a demon lord, just as a few titles. You don't have to go this route, but it's just something I found kind of interesting. But here's a pro tip, don't pressure yourself to have to come up with a cool title. Just give your movie a title and move on. If you come up with something better, then use that. Otherwise, I would recommend you actually don't spend too much time thinking on it, because what can happen is you spend so much time just trying to come up with a title and you spend very little time actually trying to focus on writing the story. And it's really the script that is way more important than the title. And besides, get this movie done, maybe the next one you'll just automatically come up with a great movie title. It all just comes down to practice, experience, and being at the right moment at the right time and writing the right story. So I hope these tips helped you out. If it did, please make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know down in the comment section what was the most helpful tip you got from this video. And if you have any really cool suggestions for good movie titles, please let me know too, because I'd love to get inspired by them. Good luck with your writing, guys, and I'll see you next time.